How's it going, everyone? I am the Shaz here with your video going over the events, banners, and songs slated to come to the All-Stars Global server for the month of May. As we inch closer and closer to the server sync with the JP server, these videos are going to get cluttered and have a lot of information on them, so feel free to come back to the video if you need a refresher on what to expect when these things come around. Anyway, let's get started. The first thing we'll cover is the first DLP of the month, which was dubbed on JP Nijigaku on Stage. This 20-stage tower features mostly Niji songs. I say this because Hop Stop Non-Stop and Happy Maker were thrown in for some reason at stages 18 and 19, and with the brand new song Zensoku Dreamer as the last stage. Pretty much every stage should be a cakewalk, as Happy Maker at stage 19 has a 4.475 million voltage requirement to clear. Zensoku Dreamer may be a little more difficult for some players, as this is the first time an Advanced Plus beat map will be a part of the event. Don't worry though, the voltage requirement is 8.55 million, so you should be able to take this song down before the event ends and the tower disappears forever. The other great part about this Dreamlight Parade, we get more special accessories. A second set of bangles, belts, and chokers means that scoring for voltage ranking competitions will see increases, but these accessories should only be a concern after you've farmed your maxed out brooches, bracelets, and necklaces. The next banner releasing, which should be on the same day of DLP, is the second party banner, this time featuring Party UR Daya and Kira Kira Umi. Umi is an elegant attribute voltage type that is actually pretty strong for an SR. While not in the Snow Halation Kotori levels of appeal, she is comparable to something like Brightest Melody Rico, which is an above average score for an SR. But let's get to the main part of the banner, Party Daya. A cool attribute voltage type, at limit break 0, Daya starts out with 9655 base appeal, 5040 base stamina, and 7245 base technique. Her tap active provides a voltage gain of 6.6% for the next 5 notes to other cool attribute cards at skill level 3. Her passive is the best for frontline scoring, as it provides an appeal boost to all cards in her strategy by 7.7% at skill level 5. Finally, her live show active gives a guaranteed voltage gain increase to other cool attribute cards by 2% for the duration of the live. First, the good. This Daya is a fantastic frontline scorer, boasting the third highest appeal in the cool attribute, narrowly trailing Fest Karin and Fest I. Now, the not so good. Much like any card with a same strategy appeal buffing passive, unless you run this card as one of your main scorers, she doesn't do anything from the backline. Also, because her tap active and live show active are tied to other cool attribute cards, you lose out on a lot of scoring if you run her with non-attribute cards. The first of the traditional events for the month of May will be the Laser Survival Marathon event, featuring Event UR Ayumu, Event SR's Kira Kira Ellie and Nijiiro Passions Kasumi, Event Gacha SR Miracle Wave Mari, and Event Gacha UR's Ruby and Maki. As always when it comes to events, we'll start with a quick note on the SRs. All of them are very meh. Ellie is a very weak pure attribute SK type crit rate increase card, Kasumi is a cool attribute guard type stamina healer, and Mari is a cool attribute SP type gauge bomber. The free event UR is Cyber World Ayumu, her 6th UR overall that comes as a natural attribute SP type. Assuming you tier high enough to get her second copy, she starts off with 4643 base appeal, 5034 base stamina, and 6738 base technique, good for a 35.21% crit rate. Her tap active is an SP gauge fill, providing a fill of 7% of the SP gauge at skill level 3. Her passive gives her some good flexibility, as it provides an appeal boost for other natural attribute cards by 4.6% at skill level 3. Her live show active is, well, we've seen it before, and it's yet to be good. Her live show active provides a 3% base appeal boost to all other Ayumu cards in your formation. While yes, it's great we get another free gauge filler who does have backline flexibility, this card will only really help you for songs like Tokimeki Runners Chapter 17, Donna Toki Mozuto, and Jingle Bell ga Tomaranai if you don't have a better option. The first part of the event gacha gives us Cyber World Ruby, her 7th UR overall, that comes to the game as a natural attribute voltage type. Thank goodness! At Limit Break 0, Ruby Pigias in with 7120 base appeal, 4682 base stamina, and 5563 base technique. Her tap active is an appeal buff for other natural attribute cards by 6.6% at skill level 3. Her passive is the same as Ayumu's, giving a 4.6% appeal buff to other natural attribute cards at skill level 3. Her LSA is both weak and AC dependent, as it gives an appeal increase to other natural attribute cards by 4% for the next 5 notes whenever you clear an AC. This Ruby card has the second highest base appeal in the natural attribute, only trailing the recent second Fesserin. Her passive does allow her to have some flexibility as a backline option for a stronger natural attribute strategy if she's at a low limit break. But much like any card whose entire kit is tied to either a type or attribute, this card loses a large chunk of its effectiveness with any main strategy card that isn't on attribute. The second part of the event gacha gives us Cyber World Maki, her 7th UR overall, that arrives as a Smile attribute guard type. At Limit Break 0, our Resident Tomato starts with 4172 base appeal, 7643 base stamina, and 5563 base technique. Her tap active provides a stamina shield equal to 26% of her stamina at skill level 3. Her passive is one of the weaker ones for sustain cards, boosting the stamina of other Smile attribute cards by 4.6% at skill level 3. Her LSA, which has a 10% chance to activate when taking 500 or more damage, will add 5% of this card's stamina as a shield. This LSA sounds eerily familiar. Anyway, there isn't really too much to analyze with this card. She's a run-of-the-mill sustain card, end of story. Following this marathon event, we will be getting the next story chapter update, featuring the attribute version of Nijiiro Passions and the song that makes every Muse fan cry, Bokutachi wa Hitotsu no Hikari, or Bokuhika as it's more commonly known. Before I sick the onion cutting ninjas on all of you, let's talk about Nijiiro Passions. The 3D version of this song comes to the game in the active attribute with a 7.122 million voltage requirement to S rank on advanced. Assuming you clear all of the ACs, the raw voltage total requirement goes down to 5.7 million. This song sports a non-cleansable 20% off attribute debuff, and each of the 4 ACs gives some sort of boost to Niji cards. Does this surprise you? ACs 1, 3, and 4 are all voltage based, providing a 20% appeal buff to Niji cards. The second AC is a small 69k SP gauge pop that provides a 20% gauge gain rate increase for Niji cards. Most of you watching this video should have a frontline that can tackle this song without issue, so go ahead and collect those gems for completing the song. Now we call in those onion-cutting ninjas and talk about Bokutachi wa Hitotsu no Hikari from Muse. Coming into the game as a Smile attribute song, this song is designed not only to frustrate you, but to bring out the feels. I mean, look at this. For God's sake, they put them in the flower from a final live! My heart can't take this! The song itself doesn't have a very high voltage requirement to S rank on advanced, only 4.79 million. This does end up being quite high, however, as the overall song gimmick is a non-cleansable 50% appeal debuff to all cards. This song also heavily favors SP type cards, as the lone note gimmick provides Smile cards with a 50% gauge gain rate increase for 20 notes, with this note gimmick buff basically covering the entire song. There are 6 total ACs, 3 that are voltage based, and 3 that require an SP gauge pop. All of the ACs give Muse cards a 50% gauge gain rate up, which for right now shouldn't mean too much to you unless this song comes to SPL or a voltage ranking. My suggestion for this song, if you can, Bring your highest appeal Smile attribute Muse cards as your scorers, then use Fest Nico or any other Smile attribute sustain card to get you through the song. Oh, and don't worry about feeling emotional hearing the song. You're going to anyway. Just enjoy the ride. After the story chapter 25 update, we then get the next Fest banner, featuring SR's Miracle Wave Yohane and Nijiiro Passions Setsuna, and Fest UR's Hanayo and I. Before we talk about the cards, I would first like to pay respects to the bank accounts of any and all Ioshis. Having her second Fest card released this close to her party UR, ouch. Okay, first the SRs of the banner. Miracle Wave Yohane is a Smile attribute SP type gauge filler with a same attribute appeal buffing passive. She actually has decent stats for an SR, so this card is a small win in my book. Nijiiro Passions Setsuna, on the other hand, is pretty average. A cool attribute voltage type SR with a decent appeal at max limit break and a same attribute appeal buffing passive, but her tap active and passive are also tied to other cool cards, making it very pedestrian. First, the face of the banner, Fest Hanayo, her 8th UR overall, with this one being her first UR in the natural attribute and her second guard type UR. Called Innocent Healing Hanayo, this card starts off with 4560 base appeal, 8208 base stamina, and 5472 base technique. Her tap active is the standard Fest card Stamina Heal, providing a stamina heal equal to 34% of her stamina at skill level 3. Her passive is a really awkward one, giving an appeal boost to all cards in her strategy by 4% at skill level 3. Her LSA is pretty worthless in most cases, decreasing the stamina damage by 30% for the next node coming in, and with this LSA activating a maximum of 5 times per live. Much like 2 of the 3 Fest healers in this cycle, Fest Kanan and Fest Shioriko, this card, while having the distinction of being the first natural attribute guard type stamina healer, does what it's supposed to, keep your stamina in the green. Her passive is a bit of a bonus, but you shouldn't really be counting on it as a main source of scoring. Let your brooches that you farmed or the Dreamlight Parade chokers do that for you. The second Fest UR is Fest I, her 6th UR overall, that comes to the game as a Smile attribute SK type. Dubbed Romantic Rose I, our resident Gyaru starts off with 7000 base appeal, 2872 base stamina, and 8074 base technique at limit break 0, good for a 39.22% crit rate. Her tap active increases the crit rate for cards in her strategy by 19% for the next 5 nodes at skill level 3. Her passive puts her into flex territory, as it provides an appeal buff for other Smile attribute cards by 4.6% at skill level 3. Her LSA is very awkward, stating that the first 10 times I crits add 15% of her technique as a voltage boost. This card is the epitome of what I call a flex card. If this card is at a low limit break, you can use her as an appeal booster for a full Smile attribute frontline, or if she is close to max limit break, she can turn into a bit of a scoring monster with 14,456 base technique at max limit break, making her the card in the game with the highest potential technique. Because of her large technique stat and her very high appeal, she now earns the title of Best Center 3 card in the game, claiming the title from Fest Nozomi. She does come with a bit of a downside, as she doesn't really fit into either of the 2 most common Smile archetypes, first year voltage types or second year gauge fillers. That aside, this card should make a great addition to your collection if you happen to pull her. With the new story chapter and Fest banners, we'll also get a changeover on the attribute banners, as we now move into the natural and elegant banners. Much like the banners before it, while these are extra ways for whales to get radiance, if you're a budget or free-to-play player, I wouldn't even think about touching these banners. As a reminder, these banners do not provide shiny quartz pieces, meaning there is nothing to spark off of these banners. In addition, the rate up for the highlighted attribute is only 2x, so if you think you can pull on this banner and snag a particular card of the highlighted attribute, more often than not, you'll be sorely mistaken. Instead, go ahead and just save those gems for a Fest banner. the day after the Fest banner releases, we should be getting the 11th SBL. As always, be on the lookout for the in-depth SBL guide as the event itself comes closer. I guess they decided that since we're past 10 SBLs, they needed to crank up the difficulty of the songs, so this time around we get a song list of Heart to Heart, Sky Journey, and Audrey. The stat bonus this time around will go to Muse cards, so buckle up for what's sure to be a wild ride. Now, in addition to SBL, we will be getting a game update which introduces school idol channels to the game. And much like my SBL videos, I will make a separate video going over how school idol channels work and how I am using them to make my teams as strong as possible. After the conclusion of SBL, we get the Cherry Blossom Fairy Exchange event, featuring Event UR Nico, Event SR's Happy Party Train Yohane and No Brand Girls Nozomi, Event Gacha SR Just Believe Rina, and Event Gacha UR's Shizuku and Daya. The SRs tied to the event are very pedestrian, so we don't really need to worry about covering them. The temp song for this cycle is Mirai Ticket, and the voltage ranking songs for this event are No Brand Girls, Kimirai Happy End, and Nemureru Mori ni Ikitai na. First, let's go over the free event UR, Cherry Blossom Fairy Nico, her 8th UR which comes to the game as an elegant attribute SK type. Assuming you tier high enough to get a second copy of this card, she'll start off with 51-51 base appeal, 49-54 base stamina, and 70-46 base technique, good for a 36.13% crit rate. Her tap active is pretty weak, providing a skill activation rate increase for other cards in her strategy by 4.6% at skill level 3. Her passive is also pretty lackluster, providing a 6.5% increase to the technique of cards in her strategy at skill level 4. Her LSA rounds out this below average kit, providing a 7% skill activation rate up increase for the first 5 notes of every appeal chance. Outside of this card's costume and potentially some skill activation cheesing for SBL, this card isn't very good. Just get your free copies, then leave this card alone. The first part of the event gacha gives Cherry Blossom Fairy Shizuku, her 6th UR overall, that enters as a pure attribute SP type. At Limit Break 0, Shizuku starts off with 70-68 base appeal, 61-81 base stamina, and 44-08 base technique. Her tap active is the SP Gauge Bomb, adding 31% of her appeal to the next SP gauge as voltage at skill level 3. Her passive gives her a small amount of backline flexibility, as it is an appeal boost to other pure attribute cards by 4.6% at skill level 3. Her live show active is guaranteed to provide 7% of her appeal as voltage every time you use your SP gauge. Despite the card's high appeal stat, she's not really good for frontlining unless you lack any pure attribute cards better than her. Even backlining her is situational, as I'd prefer to run cards like Fest Kasumi and Uma Event Honoka over her. A relatively weak card kit-wise with okay stats, I would say this card grades out at a 4 or 5 out of 10. The second part of the event gacha gives Cherry Blossom Fairy Daya, her 8th UR overall, that comes as a natural attribute guard type. At Limit Break 0, One-san starts with 44-77 base appeal, 77-12 base stamina, and 57-45 base technique. Her tap active provides a stamina shield equal to 26% of her stamina at skill level 3. Her passive is on the weaker side, as it increases the stamina of other cards in her strategy by 6% at skill level 3. Her live show active is very awkward, as the first 3 times you take over 350 damage, add 33% of this card's stamina as a shield. For most songs, this means that whatever her stamina value is, she'll add that as a shield after the first 3 notes. I'm not really a big fan of this card. She does okay with keeping your stamina in the green, but nothing more. Both of the event gacha URs I would not recommend pulling for unless you only scout for these Oshi cards. Okay, next comes Dreamlight Parade, this time with the cool and active on stage tower. While this tower does follow the template set by the Smile and Pure on stage tower from 2 DLPs ago, there is a pretty noticeable difference in this tower. The last song, at stage 20, Sweet Eyes, is an advanced plus only difficulty song that has a target voltage of 13.44 million. This shouldn't be very difficult, however, as most of the other songs before it should be easy clears with the rest of your cards. Even if you need to use the PP refill, you should be just fine. Along with Dream Life Parade, we should be getting the second party banner of the month featuring Party Honoka along with the Just Believe Kanata SR. Kanata is another elegant attribute voltage type, just like the Kira Kira Umi that came in the last party banner. The difference here though, Kanata is considerably stronger, and at max limit break is only 400 base appeal weaker than Snow Halation Kotari, making it a pretty good grab for almost any player. Now for the main attraction, Party Honoka, also known as Captain Honoka, her 8th UR overall, which comes as a pure attribute skill type. At limit break 0, Honoka starts with 8587 base appeal, 4761 base stamina, and 10,492 base technique, good for a 46.47% crit rate. Her tap active is a stamina heal, healing 26% of this card's technique as stamina at skill level 3. Her passive provides an appeal buff to other pure attribute cards by 6.1% at skill level 5. The most intriguing part of her kit is her LSA, which increases the skill activation rate for all pure cards by 10% for the next 3 notes every time you use your SP gauge. I don't say this lightly, but this card is almost a must-have for one type of player. If you have Noble Princess Karin, the First Fest Kasumi, and Detective Pana, this card takes your SP cycling to a whole nother level. The fact that this Honoka's LSA is guaranteed every time you use your SP gauge makes this card insane for the pure attribute SP cycle strategy. Add to that her same attribute appeal buffing passive, and you now have the 6th and final piece for the ultimate pure attribute scoring strategy. The final event in the month of May should be the Signs of Spring Marathon event, featuring Event UR Chika, Event SR's Happy Party Train Ruby and No Brand Girls Hanayo, Event Gacha SR Just Believe Kasumi, and Event Gacha UR's Rin and Karin. Karin Din Din Gabe? I'll see myself out. Actually, before I leave, the event SRs. They're pretty bad, except for one. Happy Party Train Ruby and No Brand Girls Hanayo are awful cards, as Ruby just gets a skill activation rate up SR, and Hanayo gets a damage reduction SR. Just Believe Kasumi, however, is the best of the bunch, a pure attribute voltage type SR with 8069 base appeal at max limit break, rivaling Soreboku Maki as the best scoring pure attribute SR in the game. The free event UR, Signs of Spring Chika, is her 8th UR overall and comes to the game as a natural attribute SP type. Assuming you tier high enough to get her to limit break 1, the Mikan enters with 5303 base appeal, 4512 base stamina, and 7174 base technique, good for a 36.52% crit rate. Unfortunately for all the Chika stands, this card isn't very good as her entire kit revolves around second years. Her tap active provides an SP gauge gain of 39% for all other second years for the next 3 notes at skill level 3. Her passive increases the technique of other second years by 4.9% at skill level 4, and her LSA gives an SP gauge gain increase for other second years of 18% for the first 3 notes of every appeal chance. While the costume for this card is quite adorable, that's the only real redeeming quality about it. The first part of the event gacha gives Signs of Spring Rin, her 8th UR that comes as an active attribute voltage type. At limit break 0, Rin starts off with 7350 base appeal, 5383 base stamina, and 5201 base technique. Her tap active is the voltage boost, adding 31% of her appeal as voltage at skill level 3. Her passive is the best for frontline scoring, boosting appeal of every card in her strategy by 6% at skill level 3. Her LSA is pretty weak though, increasing skill activation rate for other active attribute cards by 15% for the next 5 notes after passing an appeal chance. Don't look now, everyone, but this is back-to-back really strong voltage type cards for Rinchan. This card, just based on pure appeal, beats out Blue Amore Umi, Toy Shop Panic Yo, and Christmas Kotori. This also means that if you wanted to, you could run a complete brute force active attribute strategy with 3 voltage boost tap active cards in the upcoming voltage rankings if you have a low limit break trained Nico. The second part of the event gacha gives Signs of Spring Karin, her 6th UR overall, which enters as an elegant attribute guard type. At limit break 0, Karin starts with 4240 base appeal, 7774 base stamina, and 5654 base technique. Her tap active is the Stamina Shield, adding 26% of her stamina as a shield at skill level 3. Her passive is on the weak side, boosting stamina of other elegant attribute cards by 4.6% at skill level 3. Her LSA is extremely weird. Activating if your total stamina is below 80% will provide a stamina heal equal to 28% of her stamina. This skill, however, only activates a maximum of twice per live. While it is a solid sustain option in the elegant attribute, I'd much rather use Fest Ruby, Second Fest Kanan, Mononoke Umi, or Tea Time Chica if I wanted an elegant attribute sustain card. With that, we conclude yet another lengthy video covering most of the entire May schedule for the Love Live All-Stars global server. I will also note though, there may be extras that get added in during this particular month, and if they're important to the game, I'll make a separate video about them. Before I sign off, a big thank you to Xifrid as always for help with most of the visual assets for this video. I've been I Am the Shaz, take it easy, be nice to each other, and I'll see you all next time.